He'd spent his life enforcing the rules, but today the forest demanded something more from him, a choice that could cost everything. One glance at the mother bear and her cub made him realize that duty and compassion were not always aligned. How far would he go to protect them? The morning was quiet, almost unnaturally so, in a way that made Aaron, the forest ranger, tense despite the routine of his work. Years of patrolling these woods had taught him to notice the subtle differences between a forest at rest and one holding its breath, waiting. Mist clung low to the ground, curling around the trunks of ancient pines, and dew coated the ferns so thickly that each step forward left a tiny, glistening imprint. The air smelled of wet earth and pine resin, with a faint hint of berries, a reminder that life was thriving unseen beneath the thick canopy. Aaron adjusted the strap of his binoculars and scanned the distance. Reports had come in of a mother bear and her cubs wandering too close to human settlements. It wasn't unusual. Bears were intelligent, cautious, and persistent, and these woods bordered a small mountain village that had expanded in recent years. His job was simple, by the book: observe, report, and if necessary relocate the animals to prevent danger. It was a rule-bound existence he had followed all his career, a life of boundaries drawn by law rather than instinct. But today felt different. Something in the way the mist shifted, or perhaps the sharp stillness in the air, whispered that this encounter would not be simple. He tightened the binoculars, scanning a small clearing ahead. There, movement. A dark shape, low and careful, slipped between the trees. And behind her, tiny, unsteady, following with hesitant steps, was a cub. Aaron's stomach tightened. The cub's head tilted to sniff the air, ears twitching at every sound, while the mother's eyes constantly swept the clearing, vigilant, calculating, protective. He crouched lower behind a fallen log, instinctively moving into the shadows. Aaron had seen mother bears before. He had seen cubs, playful, mischievous, sometimes tragic. But never together in such stark vulnerability. The mother bear's posture was alert but not aggressive, a balance of strength and caution that spoke of life or death experience. The cub wobbled on its tiny legs, tripping slightly over a root, and the mother nudged it gently with her snout, urging it forward. Aaron's mind raced. The rules were clear: prevent the cub from approaching human territory. Relocate the mother if necessary. But here, in the dappled light of the clearing, watching a mother correct her cub's steps with such tender care, the words relocate and prevent sounded cold and alien. The law of man was rigid, the law of nature fluid and instinctive. And for the first time, Aaron realized that rigid obedience could conflict with the very essence of life he had sworn to protect. He lowered the binoculars slightly and listened. The forest seemed to hold its breath along with him. A branch snapped under the cub's paw. The mother's ears flicked back toward the sound. The cub froze, looking up, uncertain. Then, as if sensing the silent watcher, the mother bear shifted, turning partially toward Aaron's hiding spot. Aaron froze too, recognizing the subtle tension in her stance, the warning, the calculation. He reminded himself, silently, that any wrong move could trigger a defensive reaction. Yet he could not bring himself to move. Something inside him resisted the impulse to act purely out of protocol. He had grown up in these woods, had trained to be a ranger, had memorized every law and ordinance regarding wildlife. But never had the laws felt so inadequate against the living, breathing complexity before him. He watched as the cub toddled forward again, bumping into a low branch, startled, but the mother's gaze softened, reassuring, and nudged it along. The scene was mundane in some sense, just mother and child surviving, but it was also intensely intimate, a story of trust, care, and responsibility that no law could adequately capture. Aaron's radio crackled faintly in his pocket, the distant voice of a colleague reminding him to check coordinates and report back. He ignored it, too absorbed. Any sound now might alarm the bears. He shifted slightly, adjusting his footing on the damp soil, careful not to make a sound. The mother bear's nose twitched, picking up his scent, but she did not move aggressively. Instead, she tilted her head, sniffed, and then returned her attention to the cub. Aaron realized she was testing the boundaries of danger as much as he was. Minutes passed in this delicate balance. The cub discovered a small patch of wildflowers, pawing at them, tumbling into a shallow depression, and the mother nudged it with a quiet authority, correcting without reprimand. Aaron's chest ached with a mixture of awe and ethical tension. What was his duty here? Follow the law blindly, risk separating a mother from her cub, or intervene differently, guided by empathy, knowing that any human mistake could endanger them both? Then a sound shattered the stillness, the distant bark of a dog from the edge of the village. The mother's ears flicked, the cub froze, and Aaron's pulse spiked. He could feel the choice pressing against him: immediate and uncompromising. If the mother moved toward the village, he could enforce the rules, guiding her back or relocating her. But every instinct told him that force would only heighten danger, stress, and potential tragedy. He had a choice to make, rules or compassion, but the consequences were tangible, immediate, and heavy. Aaron crouched lower, weighing his options. He could retreat, call for assistance, and enforce the letter of his duty. Or he could observe, stay hidden, and allow the forest's rhythm to dictate their actions, stepping in only if life or safety demanded. The morning light filtered through the trees in golden streaks, catching the mother's fur and illuminating the cub's tiny face. In that moment, the world narrowed to a single urgent question. What kind of ranger was he willing to be? The forest seemed to wait for his decision as the mother bear stepped cautiously toward the sound of the dog, the cub following her lead. Aaron's mind raced, heart pounding, every second stretching longer than the last. One wrong choice and he could provoke panic. One hesitant move, and the delicate balance of life and law could shatter. And then, as the cub stumbled over a root and let out a soft whimper, Aaron realized he could no longer be an observer only. The choice would come down to his hands, his judgment, his courage, and it would define not just this morning, but his understanding of duty forever. Aaron's decision had to be made in an instant. Would he follow the strict rules he had sworn to uphold, or step into the forest's delicate rhythm, guided by empathy and compassion, risking everything he knew? If you were in Aaron's place, would you enforce the rules, or protect the mother bear and her cub? What would you risk to do the right thing? The soft morning mist clung stubbornly to the forest floor as Aaron remained motionless behind the fallen log, eyes fixed on the mother bear and her cub. Every fiber of his body was tense, each breath measured. The earlier sounds of the village, distant dog barks and the faint rumble of human activity, had faded, replaced by the forest's low murmur, the rustle of leaves, the occasional snap of a twig, the murmur of a creek somewhere hidden in the dense undergrowth. Yet beneath the calm, Aaron felt a warning in the air. Danger was near, and it was not born of the forest itself. From the direction of the village, a low rumble grew into the unmistakable sound of a vehicle. Not just any vehicle, but one carrying purpose. A group of hunters who had been tracking wildlife near the edges of the forest. Aaron had spotted them on previous patrols, a careless crew accustomed to rules bending in their favor. Their trucks kicked up dust along the narrow dirt road that marked the forest's boundary, tires crunching over gravel and dislodged pine cones. The mother bear's ears twitched sharply, the cub stumbled slightly, sensing the change in tension. Aaron's pulse quickened. His training screamed to intervene, to enforce the law, to protect both human and animal from confrontation. Yet he also understood the delicate balance he now faced. Any sudden movement could provoke panic in the mother bear. The cub, small and inexperienced, could be lost in the chaos before Aaron could act. He was forced to consider, how could he enforce the rules without inflicting harm on the very life he had sworn to protect? The mother bear shifted, her massive head swiveling to pinpoint the source of the noise. She dropped into a subtle crouch, the cub mimicking her posture instinctively. Aaron could see every muscle ripple along her back, tense, ready to spring but restrained. She was calculating, not reacting blindly. Every movement was measured, instinctively teaching the cub the art of caution, the nuance of survival. Aaron's hand hovered over his radio. He could call for backup, summon authority, and attempt to steer the situation. But even as he contemplated this, a sickening thought took root. The hunters were likely unaware of the mother's presence. Their approach could trigger a defensive reaction, a fight that might cost lives. His eyes darted to the cub, unsteady, pawing the forest floor. The innocence of the little creature was a stark contrast to the looming threat. Suddenly, a voice shouted in the distance. A rough, careless tone, laughing as the hunters approached a bend in the road, unaware of Aaron's presence or the bear family in the clearing beyond. The mother's ears pricked further, nostrils flaring. The cub whimpered softly, glancing up at her for guidance. Aaron realized the situation could escalate in seconds. He had to act, or risk the forest's rhythm being shattered by fear, confusion, and human recklessness. He shifted slightly, trying to move closer without being detected. The forest floor was a minefield of roots, fallen branches, and uneven ground. Every step was calculated. Aaron's breath was silent, his body low and agile. The mother bear's head turned subtly as if sensing a new presence. He froze, every instinct screaming caution. The cub pressed closer to its mother's side, trembling slightly, and Aaron felt a pang of responsibility. Here the laws on paper meant nothing. He alone could influence the outcome. As the hunter's vehicle drew nearer, the mother bear made a choice. She stepped forward, deliberately placing herself between the cub and the approaching sound, a living shield. Aaron's heart surged with admiration and anxiety. This was the forest truth: protect the young at all costs. But now the stakes were undeniable. He had to ensure that both mother and cub survived this encounter, without allowing the hunters to unwittingly provoke disaster. Aaron scanned his options. He could make noise to warn the hunters, risking the mother's panic. Or he could silently signal them from a distance, perhaps using gestures or light, buying time. He considered using the flare gun he carried, not to harm but to create a visual barrier, an unspoken message. Every scenario carried risk. Every choice could tip the balance between life and death. The hunters emerged from the bend, their laughter and voices growing louder. One of them pointed ahead, likely spotting the faint movement of the cub in the clearing. The mother bear stiffened, muscles taut, eyes sharp and calculating. She let out a low, guttural growl, not aggressive but warning. The sound resonated through the trees, vibrating against the trunks, a living caution in the heart of the forest. The cub froze, ears flat, body pressed against its mother. Aaron held his breath, feeling the forest lean in, holding its collective pulse. It was a moment suspended between law and life, rules and compassion. Aaron's mind raced for a solution. He could not allow this to become a tragedy, but he could not overtly interfere without risking further chaos. Slowly, deliberately, he extended one hand, signaling subtly, a small wave toward the hunters, hoping to catch their attention without startling the bears. One hunter glanced up, squinting at the movement. The vehicle slowed, wheels crunching against gravel. Aaron realized that time was collapsing. The cub twitched nervously, the mother's growl deepening, a living drumbeat of tension. He had to act, decide whether to remain a passive observer, bound by regulations, or step into the delicate interplay between humanity and the wild. One misstep could spark a panic, a chase, a tragedy neither human nor bear could recover from. And then the cub stumbled forward, heading inadvertently toward the open clearing, closer to the hunter's path. The mother bear lunged instinctively, a blur of strength and precision, nudging the cub back behind her, snapping her powerful jaws in a warning that vibrated across the forest floor. Aaron's heart leapt, sweat beading his brow, the moment crystallizing the stark reality. Nature had its own rules and they were unyielding. Aaron took a deep breath, weighing his choice. He could shout a warning, try to redirect the hunters, or continue to stay hidden, letting instinct and fate guide the outcome. His mind focused on the cub, on the mother, on the fragile thread that connected all of them in this morning light. A single decision now would ripple through the forest, testing his resolve, his courage, and his understanding of what it truly meant to protect life. Aaron's hand hovered in the air, poised between action and inaction. Would he reveal himself to prevent a confrontation, risking the bear's trust? Or remain hidden, letting nature decide, trusting his judgment to the instinct of the wild? The first human threat had arrived. How he responded now would define the morning and perhaps his career. What would you do if you were Aaron? Step in to guide the hunters and risk panicking the bears, or trust the forest's rhythm and hope instinct prevails? The vehicle's engine rumbled louder now, crunching against the forest floor, each rotation of its tires sending vibrations through the ground. Aaron's muscles were taut, eyes flicking between the mother bear and her cub, and the approaching humans. He could feel the cub's tiny body pressed against the mother, trembling, yet she held her ground, a living wall of instinct and authority. Every instinct screamed that the humans were oblivious to the life they were about to disrupt. Aaron's mind raced. Staying hidden no longer seemed viable. The hunters were about to enter the clearing, mere meters from the cub. He weighed his options rapidly. A whistle. A shout? A thrown rock? Any sudden noise could provoke panic, send the mother bear into defensive rage, endangering everyone, including himself. And yet inaction carried a similar threat. The cub could dart forward in confusion, the mother could act unpredictably, and human recklessness would transform a delicate encounter into chaos. The mother bear's growl deepened, resonating through the undergrowth. The cub pressed closer, paws sinking into the soft moss, ears flattened against its head. Aaron realized something critical. The mother's trust in her environment and in him, if he intervened subtly, could determine whether this confrontation ended in tragedy or escape. He had never felt the weight of responsibility so intensely. The hunters emerged from the tree line. Their laughter, their oblivious chatter, now seemed dangerously loud in the otherwise quiet forest. One of them leaned out of the vehicle, scanning the terrain. The cub froze, unsure, swaying slightly in place, while the mother bear's posture shifted subtly, muscles coiling ready to spring if needed. Aaron's decision crystallized. He could no longer remain passive. He rose slowly from his crouch, hands visible, moving deliberately to signal a warning. "Hey!" His voice rang sharp but controlled. "Stop. Stop your truck." The hunters froze, their heads swiveling toward him. The vehicle screeched to a halt, tires skidding slightly against the gravel. Aaron exhaled softly, holding his ground, eyes fixed on the mother bear. She stood perfectly still, assessing him, gauging his intentions. The cub pressed against her side, eyes wide. Aaron raised one hand, showing calm and non-threatening intent. The lead hunter, a tall man with a sunburned face, frowned. "What the hell are you?" Aaron cut him off. "There's a mother bear and cub right here. If you move forward, it will panic. You could provoke it. Please back up slowly." The hunters hesitated. One muttered complaints, frustration seeping through their voices, but Aaron's tone carried authority. Not just professional, but a subtle command that respected the wild's integrity. He took a cautious step forward, using himself as a buffer between the truck and the bear family, eyes never leaving the mother bear. She did not move, but the growl deepened, low and resonant, warning the humans to respect boundaries. Aaron felt the raw tension in the forest, the balance between human and animal, law and instinct, rules and compassion. He knew that a single wrong move from either side could trigger chaos. The mother bear's eyes, dark and intelligent, met his for a fraction of a second. He felt a silent communication. "I trust you to keep them away from my cub." The lead hunter, finally recognizing the seriousness of the situation, nodded slowly. Fine. We'll back up." He motioned to his companions, and the truck began to retreat, tires crunching over roots and gravel. Aaron remained in place, muscles coiled, eyes scanning for any sudden movement. The mother bear relaxed slightly but did not lower her guard entirely, the cub still pressed close, trembling with tension. Aaron exhaled, heart pounding. The first human threat had passed, but the danger remained. He knew this was only a temporary reprieve. The forest was filled with humans who did not understand, vehicles that could appear without warning, and situations where his intervention might not be possible. The moral dilemma he faced now was not a one-time decision. It was a continuous negotiation between law, instinct, and compassion. He moved carefully closer to the mother bear, crouching low, hands visible. "It's okay," he whispered softly, tone calm and steady. "You're safe." The mother bear's head tilted slightly, sniffing the air around him, assessing whether he truly posed no threat. The cub, emboldened by its mother's reassurance and Aaron's calm presence, stepped forward cautiously, touching his boot with a tiny paw. Aaron's chest tightened with emotion. This was the raw, unfiltered interaction between species, trust earned, risk assessed, and compassion expressed in actions rather than words. He realized that enforcing rules was meaningless if it came at the cost of life or the natural order. True responsibility was not about rigid obedience, it was about protecting and understanding, balancing law with empathy. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the trees. A fallen branch, loosened by the retreating truck, tumbled down the slope near the cub. The cub squeaked and darted instinctively, tripping over a root. The mother bear reacted instantly, sweeping the cub up with a protective nudge, her body a shield against potential harm. Aaron lunged slightly to the side, ensuring the humans did not see the cub's sudden movement and further provoke panic. The forest seemed to exhale, tension coiling and uncoiling with every breath. Aaron stood in the clearing, realizing the magnitude of what had just occurred. He had intervened, risked his safety, and honored the forest's natural rhythm simultaneously. Yet he knew the moral test was not over. Life in these woods was not static. Threats, human or otherwise, could appear at any moment, and his choices would continue to define the delicate balance of coexistence. As the hunters disappeared down the road, muttering complaints and unaware of the precise danger they had narrowly avoided, Aaron turned fully toward the mother bear. She lowered her massive head slightly, sniffing the air, her dark eyes still wary but slowly relaxing. The cub pressed against her side, eyes wide but safe. Aaron knelt slowly, maintaining a non-threatening posture. The morning sun filtered through the mist, casting dappled light across the forest floor, illuminating the scene with a cinematic glow. Aaron felt a profound shift within himself. The forest had demanded more than adherence to law. It had demanded courage, empathy, and a willingness to act when no manual could provide guidance. He understood now that his duty was not merely to enforce rules but to ensure life thrived, even when the correct action was ambiguous, risky, and beyond conventional protocol. He whispered again softly, "You're safe for now. I won't let anyone hurt you. The mother bear's ears flicked, assessing, and then she moved a few steps deeper into the forest, cub following obediently. Aaron watched them retreat, heart pounding, a mix of relief and lingering tension coursing through him. The lesson was clear. The forest was alive, responsive, and morally complex, and so too was the role of those who chose to protect it. Aaron knew this was only the beginning. The forest would continue to challenge him, testing his judgment, courage, and morality. The next threat could be closer, deadlier, and demand a choice that would test the very core of his understanding of duty and compassion. The forest seemed to exhale around Aaron, the tension from the morning slowly loosening but not disappearing. He watched as the mother bear led her cub further into the dense trees, moving with deliberate caution, aware of every sound, every scent. The cub stumbled occasionally, tiny legs still awkward and inexperienced, and each time the mother nudged it, a subtle but firm communication: stay close. Watch. Learn. Aaron followed at a safe distance, careful not to leave any trace of his presence while maintaining a visual on the animals. His boots sank slightly into the damp forest floor, leaves crunching underfoot, but he adjusted his pace to remain silent, a shadow among shadows. The mist lingered, curling around the tree trunks, softening the morning sun into streaks of gold that danced across the undergrowth. Every step he took reminded him that he was part of the forest now, bound not by law but by the instinctive trust the mother had extended, however tenuous. He considered the morning's encounter with the hunters. The immediate threat had passed, but the forest itself was unpredictable. Fallen trees, hidden cliffs, other human activity, all could pose sudden danger. He understood that his role now was dual, protector and guide. He had intervened once, but the moral responsibility weighed heavier with every passing step. The mother bear paused near a small creek, sniffing the air. Aaron crouched behind a thick clump of ferns, noting how alert she remained. The cub mirrored her movements, a mirror image of cautious curiosity. Aaron realized that their survival depended not just on the absence of immediate danger, but on teaching the cub how to navigate the complexities of the wild. His presence was an unspoken factor in that lesson, a silent guardian ensuring that no human carelessness interrupted the learning process. As he observed, a faint rustle caught his attention. He froze, scanning the dense forest. A figure emerged, a lone hiker unaware of the bear family. He was equipped with a backpack and a walking stick, casually whistling to himself, following a narrow trail that led closer to the mother bear. Aaron's stomach tightened. Another human intruder, this one oblivious and innocent, yet capable of triggering chaos. The mother bear stiffened, muscles tensing. The cub stopped mid-step, sensing the shift in energy. Aaron realized the situation required immediate intervention. He could not let the hiker approach too closely, not when the cub was so near. The mother's protective instincts would clash with human curiosity if unchecked. He stepped carefully onto a root, making himself slightly visible but non-threatening, and raised his hands slowly. "Hey, watch out," he called, voice firm but calm. "There's a mother bear and cub ahead. Please stop and keep your distance." The hiker froze, eyes widening. He spotted the mother bear barely 20 feet away, her massive form a silhouette against the mist. The cub crouched low, trembling, while the mother's gaze held an intense, measured caution. The hiker raised a hand, shaking his head in disbelief. Aaron approached slowly, hands raised to demonstrate he meant no harm. "It's okay. Stay back. Don't move forward. They're wild and the cub is learning. Any sudden move could provoke her." The hiker hesitated, then nodded, slowly backing away. Aaron watched as the mother bear relaxed fractionally, the cub following her lead. He exhaled, heart pounding. But relief was fleeting. Each human intrusion, no matter how minor, forced a decision that tested not only his knowledge but his moral compass. As they moved deeper, Aaron's mind reflected on the earlier confrontation with the hunters. One intervention, one act of courage and empathy, had avoided tragedy. But he knew that relying solely on luck and instinct would not suffice in the long term. Each interaction was a negotiation, balancing human law with the raw, untamed needs of life in the forest. The mother bear led them to a denser section of trees, near a shallow cliff overlooking the creek. Aaron crouched behind a large rock, observing her movements. She paused, sniffing the air, ears flicking back and forth. The cub stepped cautiously, pawing the soft earth, still learning the rhythm of caution and movement. Aaron recognized the subtle education taking place, how a parent teaches vigilance, patience, and trust. Suddenly, the faint sound of snapping twigs echoed from deeper in the forest. Aaron froze. It wasn't the hiker, This was something closer, something heavier. The mother bear stiffened immediately, the cub pressed against her side, eyes wide. Aaron's pulse quickened. A second human threat? Or perhaps another animal? He had no way to be certain without exposing himself or causing a reaction. Aaron weighed his options carefully. Moving forward might expose him unnecessarily. Remaining passive could risk the mother bear reacting defensively to an unknown presence. He had learned already that inaction could be as dangerous as interference. Slowly, he crept closer, using the trees as cover, eyes scanning every shadow. From behind a thick pine, two figures emerged, local villagers apparently unaware of the bears, carrying bundles of firewood. Aaron's heart sank. This was a precarious moment. The mother bear had already sensed something unusual, muscles taut, growl low in her throat. The cub pressed closer, unsure. Any sudden noise or movement could escalate quickly into a confrontation. Aaron's mind raced. He had to make a choice: intervene directly, guiding the villagers back, or stay hidden, hoping the mother's instincts would prevent disaster. But time was shrinking. One step too close from the villagers could provoke defensive aggression. He stepped partially into view, hands raised high, voice clear and commanding. "Stop. Please back away slowly," he shouted, projecting authority without panic. The villagers froze, startled, scanning the misty forest. Aaron continued, slowly moving forward, careful to remain non-threatening. "There's a mother bear with a cub right here. Do not approach, please, I'll guide you back." The mother bear growled low, a warning resonating through the forest floor. The cub whined softly, eyes wide. Aaron's heart raced. He realized this encounter could escalate within seconds. Every choice he made, every step, could either prevent tragedy or ignite panic. Aaron's voice carried through the mist, a bridge between human and animal worlds. But would the villagers heed his warning, or would fear and curiosity spark a confrontation the forest might not forgive? The mother bear's patience was finite, and the cub's safety now rested entirely on his ability to guide both humans and wildlife. Aaron's heart pounded like a drum in his chest. The villagers hesitated for a moment, startled by his sudden appearance and commanding voice, but curiosity flickered across their faces. One stepped forward, seemingly dismissing the warning, glancing at the misty clearing beyond. Aaron's pulse quickened. He knew that even a single step forward could shatter the delicate equilibrium. The mother bear's growl deepened, low and resonant, vibrating through the forest floor. The cub whimpered softly, pressing against its mother's side, eyes wide with uncertainty. Aaron raised both hands higher, projecting calm authority, and spoke again more firmly, "Stop. I'm serious. There's a mother bear with a cub. Back away slowly now." His voice cut through the morning mist, carrying a weight he hoped would resonate with the villagers. The cub's tiny head tilted, and it stumbled slightly, clearly sensing the danger. One villager, a young man carrying a bundle of firewood, ignored the warning and stepped closer, shifting weight on uneven ground. The mother bear's muscles coiled visibly beneath her thick fur, her stance rigid, eyes fixed on the intruder. Aaron felt a wave of panic mix with resolve. He realized that his next move would define the moment, perhaps even the day. It was no longer a question of observation, it was intervention. He scanned the forest quickly, spotting a large fallen branch nearby. Quietly, deliberately, he picked it up, using it as a visual barrier and subtle deterrent, keeping his posture non-threatening but authoritative. He stepped a few paces toward the villagers, shouting clearly, "I said stop. Move back now. The cub is right there." The mother bear growled louder, more warning than threat, yet every vibration of her stance spoke of imminent action if provoked. The cub's small body trembled, pressed against her, ears flat, eyes wide. Aaron's chest tightened. He knew the law required him to keep humans safe, but the forest demanded that he protect life in all its forms too. Every fiber of his being screamed, act decisively or risk tragedy. Suddenly, the young man's curiosity overpowered caution. He leaned forward, squinting through the mist, trying to get a glimpse of the cub. In an instant, the mother bear lunged, not to attack, but to block the movement, her massive frame creating a living shield between her cub and the human. The ground trembled slightly with the power of her shift. The cub squeaked, stumbling backward, and Aaron reacted immediately. He stepped fully into the clearing, arms outstretched, voice loud and commanding, "Stop! Do not move." His sudden presence caused the mother bear to hesitate, ears flicking toward him. For a moment, tension hung suspended in the forest like a taut wire. Every second stretched into eternity. Aaron realized that his moral responsibility had escalated. He was no longer merely observing or guiding. He was now the bridge between human recklessness and wild instinct. The villagers froze again, eyes wide, recognizing both the ranger's authority and the mother bear's immense presence. Aaron's decision was clear. He had to maintain control of the human side while ensuring the bear family felt no immediate threat from him. He lowered himself slightly, hands visible, voice steady but firm. "I'm your only way back safely. Move slowly, do exactly as I say. Step back, follow me, don't make sudden movements, and no one gets hurt." The young man swallowed nervously and nodded, hesitating before stepping back, setting the bundle of firewood down carefully. The other villagers followed suit, glancing nervously at the bear. The mother bear relaxed fractionally but did not lower her guard. The cub shuffled closer to her side, still trembling but reassured by its mother's protective presence. Aaron took a slow breath, realizing the forest had tested him, and would continue to do so, at every step. It demanded courage, empathy, and the ability to make instantaneous decisions with far-reaching consequences. He motioned to the villagers, leading them back along the narrow trail, carefully keeping a barrier of space between them and the bears. Every movement had to be precise. The cub paused occasionally, pawing at a fallen log, curious but cautious, while the mother bear mirrored its actions, teaching and shielding simultaneously. Aaron understood that the lesson the cub was receiving extended beyond mere survival. It was a lesson in trust, instinct, and the nuanced dynamics of coexistence. Yet even as they moved, Aaron's mind raced ahead. The forest was unpredictable. Humans might reappear. Hunters, hikers, villagers, all could unknowingly provoke defensive reactions. And he alone was now responsible for maintaining this fragile balance. He felt the weight of the decision pressing against his shoulders. Act to protect, intervene where necessary, and guide without overstepping. As they reached a denser section of the forest, Aaron paused, scanning the area. Sunlight filtered through the trees, casting dappled patterns on the moss-covered ground. The mother bear paused as well, sniffing the air and glancing toward the human trail behind her. The cub crouched low, ears flat, sensing the residual tension. Aaron recognized that the moral lesson extended beyond the humans. He had to respect the mother's autonomy while still intervening enough to prevent danger. A sudden rustle nearby made him freeze. A loose branch snapped under its own weight, startling the cub, which squeaked softly. The mother bear reacted instantly, stepping between the cub and the sound, body tense and ready. Aaron moved quickly but carefully, raising his hands to prevent further escalation, whispering softly, "It's okay. It's just a branch. Nothing more." The forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the tension to resolve. Aaron realized the enormity of his responsibility. The forest demanded more than passive observation. It demanded active, ethical engagement. Every decision, from guiding humans to interpreting animal behavior, required clarity, courage, and empathy. One misjudgment, one hesitation could lead to chaos, injury, or worse. And yet, he understood that by acting with respect and compassion, he was honoring the deeper laws of the wilderness. The mother bear finally relaxed, stepping back slightly, allowing the cub to wobble forward and resume its cautious exploration. Aaron exhaled slowly, heart still racing, knowing the immediate danger had passed. But he also knew that the forest would continue to challenge him, that each new intrusion or misstep would require the same delicate balance of judgment, instinct, and moral courage. He paused, watching the mother bear and cub move deeper into the dense undergrowth, realizing that his role was ongoing. The forest had taught him that day that duty was not just adherence to law, it was a commitment to understanding, protecting, and respecting life in all its forms. The moral weight of that lesson pressed on him, both heavy and illuminating. Even as the mother bear and cub disappeared into the trees, Aaron sensed that the forest trial was far from over. New human threats, unforeseen obstacles, and moral dilemmas awaited, testing his courage and judgment in ways he could not yet foresee. The next encounter could demand even more from him. More wisdom, more empathy, and more daring. If you were Aaron, how would you continue guiding humans and protecting wildlife simultaneously? Where do you draw the line between intervention and respect for nature? The forest was quiet now, but the silence was deceptive. The earlier human encounters had left a residue of tension that seemed to cling to the moss-covered trunks and thick undergrowth. Aaron moved slowly, crouched slightly, scanning every shadow and listening for subtle sounds. The faint snap of a twig, the whisper of leaves, the distant murmur of a creek. The mother bear and cub had moved ahead, their steps deliberate and careful, teaching the cub the rhythm of the forest, and Aaron followed at a respectful distance, aware that his every movement could influence their behavior. Suddenly, a sharp rustle came from a dense thicket to the right of the trail. Aaron froze. The mother bear stopped mid-step, ears swiveling, muscles coiling like springs ready to react. The cub crouched low, eyes wide, sensing the tension before it even fully understood the threat. Aaron's pulse quickened. This was not the familiar intrusion of careless humans. This was something else, something unfamiliar. From the shadows emerged a stray dog, larger than expected, lean and jittery, with wild energy and unpredictability in its movements. It barked sharply, the sound echoing through the clearing, and then froze, eyes locked on the mother bear and cub. Aaron instinctively stepped into the line between the dog and the bear family, hands raised, voice steady, "Easy, back away slowly." The mother bear growled low, a warning resonating across the forest floor. The cub whimpered softly, pressing against her side. The dog took a tentative step forward, sniffing the air, tail stiff and hackles raised. Aaron's mind raced. Unlike humans, this dog's behavior was entirely unpredictable. A defensive or aggressive reaction from the mother could provoke the dog to attack, or worse, panic, drawing nearby humans into a potentially dangerous situation. Aaron took a careful step toward the dog, his presence meant to redirect it rather than intimidate. "It's okay, leave them alone," he murmured, voice calm but firm. The dog growled, low and uncertain, pawing at the earth. Aaron realized that subtlety was key. Any sudden movement might trigger an attack. He scanned the surroundings for options: sticks, fallen logs, anything that could gently guide the dog away without provoking violence. The mother bear shifted slightly, her body a shield over the cub, muscles tense. She sniffed the air, assessing the situation, eyes meeting Aaron's briefly as if silently asking, "Can you manage this? Will you protect us without escalating danger?" Aaron's chest tightened with the weight of responsibility. He understood now that protecting life was not a single act. It was a continuous series of judgments, each requiring courage, empathy, and precision. Aaron spotted a thick branch nearby and picked it up, using it not as a weapon but as a gentle barrier between the dog and the cub. He stepped forward slowly, carefully lowering his voice, "Easy, come on, let's go the other way." The dog hesitated, tail flicking, ears perked, indecision visible in its stance. Aaron continued to guide it slowly, maintaining eye contact, ensuring he never threatened the animal but created a clear alternative path. The mother bear remained still, coiled like a spring, ready to act if necessary. The cub pressed against her side, trembling slightly but learning the rhythm of caution from her steady example. Aaron could feel the forest holding its collective breath. Every movement mattered, every sound carried weight. One wrong action, one sudden step could escalate into chaos. Suddenly the dog lunged forward, barking sharply, teeth bared, but not toward the cub. Instead, it seemed startled by a sudden noise deeper in the forest. A branch snapping under the weight of another human intruder, possibly a hiker drawn by curiosity or the sound of the dog. The mother bear reacted instinctively, stepping between the cub and the dog, growl deepening, body tense, ready to defend. Aaron reacted instantly, raising the branch in a non-threatening manner, stepping toward the dog to redirect it, voice commanding, "Back. Go away." The dog hesitated, growl lowering slightly, unsure of whether to advance or retreat. Aaron's heart pounded. He knew that every second mattered. The cub pressed tightly against the mother's side, ears flat, eyes wide with trust in her and indirectly in him. Aaron's decision now was crucial: guide the dog safely away without provoking aggression, protect the bear family and prevent human witnesses from causing panic. Using slow, deliberate gestures, he directed the dog toward a less trafficked section of the forest. The animal's movements were unpredictable, but Aaron's calm authority began to influence it. Its growls softened to cautious whimpers, tail lowering slightly as it followed the subtle guidance of the ranger. The mother bear relaxed fractionally, eyes still alert, ensuring the cub remained safe. Aaron exhaled slowly. The immediate threat had passed, but the moral weight of the encounter pressed on him. Protecting life required more than instinct. It required presence, judgment, and continuous adaptation. He understood now that the forest tested not only physical courage but ethical discernment, the ability to weigh consequences, act decisively, and respect both human and animal life. He watched the mother bear lead the cub deeper into the forest, now moving along a natural path, using fallen logs and thick undergrowth as cover. The dog had disappeared back into the shadows, guided by Aaron's careful direction. The cub stumbled occasionally, learning the subtle dance of vigilance, while the mother taught lessons through movement and posture. Aaron paused behind a tree, reflecting on the morning's series of challenges. Hunters, villagers, stray animals, all had forced him to make instantaneous moral and strategic choices. Each encounter emphasized the delicate balance of duty, empathy, and ethical action in the wild. He realized that true responsibility was not merely enforcing rules, it was understanding the nuances of life and intervening only when necessary with respect, courage, and foresight. He moved cautiously to keep visual contact, ensuring the cub remained unharmed, the mother unprovoked. The forest seemed alive with tension, every rustle a potential challenge, every shadow a possible hazard. Yet within that tension lay clarity. His choices mattered, and life depended on thoughtful, compassionate action. Aaron sensed another potential threat, a faint noise further ahead, irregular and uncertain. Could it be another human intrusion, a larger predator, or merely the forest's natural rhythms? Every choice from here would test his judgment, courage, and empathy to their limits. If you were Aaron, how would you balance guiding wildlife, managing unpredictable animals, and protecting humans simultaneously? What risks would you take to ensure everyone remains safe? The forest had settled into an uneasy calm, but Aaron knew better than to trust silence. Every rustle of leaves, every distant bird call, could mask a new danger. He followed the mother bear and cub cautiously, stepping over roots and fallen branches, aware that even a single misstep could alert them to his presence. The cub stumbled again, tiny claws scraping against bark, but the mother nudged it gently, a subtle lesson in balance, patience, and awareness. Aaron's mind wandered briefly to the earlier encounters. Hunters, villagers, a stray dog. Each had forced a moral decision, testing his instincts, empathy, and judgment. But the forest was far from predictable. Another challenge could appear at any moment, and he had to be prepared to act decisively yet ethically. From behind a thicket, a faint voice reached him, a human voice, soft but distinct. Someone was approaching. Aaron crouched behind a fallen log, peering through the mist. A woman appeared, mid-30s, carrying a sketchbook and a camera slung across her shoulder. She was a naturalist or wildlife artist, drawn to the forest by curiosity and professional purpose. Her movements were careful, deliberate, yet oblivious to the immediate presence of the bear family. Aaron's chest tightened. Unlike the previous intrusions, this human was not reckless, but curiosity could still provoke danger. The mother bear paused, sensing the human's presence. Her stance tightened, muscles coiling, ears flicking. The cub pressed against her side, eyes wide. Aaron knew that even a careful observer could trigger defensive behavior if unaware of her proximity. He stepped lightly from behind the log, hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. "Please, stop," he called gently. "There's a mother bear and cub just ahead. You're very close, please stay back." The woman froze, eyes wide as she spotted him. "Oh, I didn't realize," she stammered, lowering the camera slightly. Her tone was apologetic, genuine, but Aaron knew that curiosity often overcame caution. "I was just sketching. I didn't mean to." Aaron nodded slowly. "I understand, but they're wild and easily startled. You need to back away slowly. Follow my lead and no sudden movements. The mother bear is protective of her cub, and any misstep could trigger a defensive reaction." The mother bear growled low, a rumble of caution that resonated through the misty clearing. The cub crouched further against her, ears flat, eyes wide. Aaron exhaled slowly, realizing the situation required delicate balance. This was no longer simply a human intrusion, it was an exercise in trust, empathy, and moral judgment. He motioned for the woman to step back slowly. Her hands remained visible, one holding the camera, the other slightly raised. "Stay calm. Watch the cub but do not approach. Step back slowly." Her eyes flicked nervously toward the bear family, then back to Aaron. The mother bear's growl softened fractionally, sensing that Aaron was managing the interaction. The cub shifted slightly, emboldened by its mother's subtle reassurance and the ranger's calm presence. Aaron understood that his actions were teaching more than safety, they were modeling trust and ethical interaction. Suddenly, the forest floor beneath the woman's foot shifted. She stumbled, almost dropping her camera. The mother bear tensed immediately, stepping slightly forward, growl deepening. The cub squeaked softly, alarmed by the sudden motion. Aaron reacted instantly, stepping between the bear and the woman, voice firm and commanding. "It's okay. Stay still, keep your hands visible and step back slowly." The woman froze, following his instructions carefully. Aaron moved slightly toward her, using his body as a barrier without threatening the bear. The mother bear's posture relaxed fractionally, muscles still coiled, ears flicking constantly. The cub mirrored her movements, learning the subtle language of trust, caution, and survival. Aaron felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. Every decision he made, every step, had immediate consequences. He understood that protecting wildlife required more than physical presence. It demanded ethical judgment, empathy, and precise action. Misjudgment could result in injury, panic, or long-term distrust. He guided the woman along a safer path, away from the immediate clearing, all the while keeping the mother bear and cub in sight. The cub stumbled again, tiny paws catching on moss-covered roots. The mother nudged it gently, teaching it balance and caution. Aaron realized that the cub's education extended beyond instinct. It was learning from both its mother and indirectly from him about the nature of human interaction. The woman followed slowly, voice hushed. "Thank you." "I had no idea," she murmured, eyes darting nervously between the bear family and Aaron. He nodded, eyes still scanning for threats. The forest had a way of testing judgment continuously, demanding attention, patience, and moral clarity. Suddenly, a distant shout echoed through the trees. Another hiker, unaware of the bear family and Aaron's guidance, had entered the area. The mother bear stiffened again, growl rising. The cub froze, pressed against her side. Aaron's heart pounded. He realized the forest tests were relentless. Each intrusion required not only tactical intervention but ethical reasoning. How much should he intervene, how much distance should he allow, and how to ensure safety without imposing unnecessarily on the natural behavior of the animals. He motioned quickly for the woman to move behind a thick tree, out of sight, while he addressed the approaching hiker from a distance, voice firm and commanding. "Stop. There's a mother bear and cub ahead. Turn back immediately." The hiker paused, confusion and fear crossing his face. The mother bear growled, muscles taut, body a living shield over her cub. The cub squeaked softly, ears flat, eyes wide. Aaron could feel the tension in every fiber of the forest. The delicate balance between human curiosity and animal instinct, the moral responsibility weighing on his shoulders. The second hiker continued to approach, unaware of the danger, forcing Aaron into a split-second decision. Should he intervene directly, risking exposure and potential panic, or attempt a more subtle strategy, hoping instinct and authority would suffice? The next moments would test not just his courage, but the depth of his ethical judgment. The forest seemed serene now, bathed in the soft, golden light of late morning. Yet serenity was fragile. The tension from earlier human intrusions still lingered like mist clinging to the treetops. Aaron followed at a careful distance, watching the mother bear and her cub navigate through dense undergrowth. Each step they took was measured, each stumble a lesson in balance and survival. He understood that his presence, though invisible to them, shaped the cub's understanding of the unpredictable human world. As they moved deeper into the forest, the ground beneath them began to change. The soft soil grew uneven, interspersed with loose stones and hidden roots. The creek they had crossed earlier widened into a small, fast-flowing stream, swollen from recent rainfall. The water rushed over jagged rocks, its surface glinting in the sunlight, turbulent and uninviting. Aaron froze momentarily, calculating the risks. Crossing this stream would be dangerous for humans and cub alike, yet unavoidable if they were to continue along the mother bear's chosen path. The mother bear approached first, sniffing the air, muscles tense as she assessed the crossing. The cub hesitated, tiny claws scratching at the wet earth, unsure. Aaron's heart pounded. He knew that the cub's safety depended not only on the mother's instinct but on his own ability to manage potential human interference. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the forest. A branch, weakened by rain, snapped and fell near the stream. The cub squeaked and crouched, pressed against the mother's side. Aaron reacted instantly, stepping forward to create a visual barrier and project calm authority. "It's okay, stay calm. Follow her lead," he whispered, voice firm but gentle. The mother bear growled low, a sound that vibrated through the surrounding trees. She nudged the cub forward, teaching it patience and observation, how to read the environment, how to navigate risk without panic. Aaron watched closely, knowing that any sudden human noise or movement could provoke a defensive reaction. Aaron assessed the stream. The rocks were slick, moss-covered, and the current swift. He realized that the cub might slip, and a panicked stumble could trigger the mother to act aggressively. He needed to intervene without frightening the animals. Spotting a fallen tree nearby, partially submerged, he realized it could serve as a natural bridge. He positioned himself strategically, crouched low, hands raised to signal calmness. "Step carefully, cub. Mother will guide you. You're safe. Watch her movements," he murmured. The mother bear tested the first step, pawing at the log, muscles taut with focus. The cub hesitated but followed her cues, pawing gingerly on the slick surface. Aaron held his breath, heart racing. A slip could mean injury or worse, a defensive reaction from the mother. He scanned the surroundings for additional hazards: loose branches, sudden movements, potential human intrusion from earlier hikers. The forest seemed to hold its breath alongside him. Halfway across the log, the cub wobbled. Its tiny body teetered precariously over the rushing water. The mother bear leaned slightly, nudging it with precise control, guiding it without overbearing force. Aaron instinctively stepped closer, carefully, maintaining a safe distance while ready to intervene if disaster struck. A sudden shout echoed from upstream. A hiker, oblivious to the dangers, had ventured near the stream. The mother bear stiffened immediately, growl deepening. The cub froze, trembling. Aaron's pulse quickened. He realized the forest's moral test was intensifying. He had to manage multiple threats simultaneously: the river, the cub's inexperience, the mother's protective instincts, and human unpredictability. Back. Move away slowly, he called to the hiker, projecting authority and calmness. The sound startled the cub slightly, but the mother bear remained focused, muscles coiled and ready. Aaron's eyes flicked between the cub and the hiker, assessing reactions and anticipating potential escalation. The hiker hesitated, eyes wide, and took a cautious step back. The mother bear growled, a low rumble that vibrated through the waterlogged forest floor. The cub regained balance, nudged by its mother, learning the rhythm of caution and trust. Aaron breathed slowly, aware that his guidance was pivotal in maintaining the fragile equilibrium. He motioned for the hiker to retreat further, using his body and voice to establish a controlled buffer. The cub continued its cautious crossing, pausing at intervals, guided by the mother's steady presence. Aaron understood the gravity of the situation. Each step forward required judgment, patience, and empathy. The forest had created a natural classroom for the cub, and he was an inadvertent teacher as well. Finally, all three reached the far bank safely. The mother bear paused, scanning the surroundings, muscles still tense but relieved. The cub crouched low, ears flicking, eyes wide but uninjured. Aaron exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of relief and responsibility. The forest had tested him again, his courage, judgment, and moral clarity, and he had succeeded at least for this moment. Yet the trial was not over. As they continued deeper into the forest, Aaron noticed signs of human activity: faint footprints, discarded wrappers, the echo of distant voices. The mother bear's ears twitched at every subtle sound, her muscles tensing instinctively. The cub followed closely, learning vigilance through imitation. Aaron understood that the forest's challenges were continuous. Protection of life required constant observation, ethical judgment, and decisive action. He followed cautiously, keeping a respectful distance, watching the mother and cub navigate the undergrowth. The forest, with its natural obstacles and moral tests, demanded not only technical skill but empathy, patience, and understanding. Aaron realized that true responsibility was not merely enforcing rules, it was a continuous engagement with life, a balance between intervention and respect for natural processes. As the trio approached a denser section of forest, Aaron spotted movement ahead, human figures, possibly hunters, moving silently through the mist. He realized that the next confrontation could escalate quickly, forcing another critical moral decision: intervene now or risk the mother bear defending her cub in a potentially dangerous, unpredictable way? If you were Aaron, would you intervene immediately to protect the mother and cub, or rely on the animal's instincts and stay hidden? How do you decide when human intervention is necessary? The forest had grown quieter as the trio advanced, yet Aaron knew this silence was deceptive. The previous obstacles, the creek, the stray dog, curious hikers, had been resolved, but the real challenge loomed ahead. He could feel it in the subtle shift of the air, in the faint crackle of leaves underfoot. Something was approaching. A faint snap, deliberate and rhythmic, echoed from deeper in the misty undergrowth. Aaron's pulse quickened. He crouched behind a thick tree, scanning the area. The hunters. The same men who had earlier intruded, oblivious to the forest's rhythms and the delicate moral balance Aaron had been striving to maintain. Their movements were deliberate, measured, yet dangerous. Any sudden reaction could provoke a chain of events that would put the mother bear, her cub, and potentially humans at risk. He observed them through the mist, two men, rifles slung over their shoulders, unaware of the bear family that had moved beyond the creek. Aaron realized that intervention was inevitable. He needed a strategy, swift, ethical, and effective. His mind raced, calculating options. Confrontation risked panic, which could provoke the mother bear. Inaction risked the hunters wandering dangerously close, forcing her into a defensive reaction. Aaron stepped lightly from his concealment, hands raised. "Stop. Hold your position." His voice carried through the mist, authoritative but calm. The hunters froze, eyes scanning the foggy forest, rifles shifting nervously. "There's a mother bear and cub ahead. I need you to retreat slowly, carefully. Do not move forward." The mother bear sensed the tension. Her body coiled instinctively, low growl resonating from deep within her chest. The cub crouched close, pressed against her side, ears flat and eyes wide. Aaron's heart pounded. He understood that his presence was the only factor keeping this encounter from escalating into a dangerous confrontation. One hunter, a man in his 40s with weathered features, stepped forward slightly, squinting through the mist. "We're just checking the trail," he called, voice cautious but challenging. "We don't mean any harm." Aaron shook his head slowly, gesturing firmly with both hands. "It doesn't matter. There's a mother bear with a cub ahead. Any sudden movement, any attempt to get closer and it could provoke them. Back away slowly. Do it now and no one gets hurt." The hunters hesitated, uncertainty flashing across their faces. The forest seemed to hold its breath. The mother bear's growl softened fractionally, sensing the ranger's control over the situation, but her muscles remained coiled, ready to act. The cub's small body trembled slightly, mirroring the mother's caution. Aaron considered his options carefully. The terrain ahead was uneven, covered with fallen branches and exposed roots. The hunter's attention was divided between him and the forest, creating a dangerous scenario. He needed to guide them safely out of the area while keeping visual contact on the mother bear and cub. "Follow me," Aaron instructed, slowly stepping backward, signaling with his hands for the hunters to mimic his movements. "Step carefully. Keep your rifles pointed downward. No sudden movements. Trust me and we all remain safe." The hunters exchanged uneasy glances but complied, slowly retreating along a safer path. The mother bear remained alert, growl low but watchful, while the cub pressed close, learning once again the subtle cues of caution and observation. Aaron realized that this was a crucial moment. He was simultaneously managing human behavior, protecting the animals and imparting lessons in instinct, patience and trust. As they moved further from the hunters, Aaron's mind reflected on the moral weight of his actions. He had chosen to intervene directly, taking personal risk, in order to preserve the delicate balance between human activity and wildlife survival. Every step required ethical reasoning: when to act, and how to maintain respect for the animal's autonomy while preventing harm. The hunters paused at a bend in the trail, looking back at the forest. The mother bear and cub had moved beyond sight, but Aaron knew their presence lingered in every subtle sound, every rustle of leaves. He remained vigilant, ensuring the hunters did not inadvertently wander into danger again. The cub had been learning not only from the mother but from his interventions. The cues of caution, the signals of trust, the rhythm of survival in a human-influenced world. Finally, the hunters reached a clearing where the terrain allowed safe retreat. Aaron ensured they were fully out of immediate danger, then turned his attention back to the forest. The mother bear and cub had paused near a cluster of tall pine trees, observing him briefly before continuing their cautious exploration. Aaron exhaled slowly, heart still racing, reflecting on the series of moral and ethical challenges the forest had presented. He knew that this day, this sequence of events, had fundamentally altered his understanding of responsibility. True protection of life required not only knowledge and skill but empathy, judgment, and courage. He had been forced to balance human safety with wildlife autonomy, intervene without overstepping, and guide both humans and animals through morally complex scenarios. The mother bear's eyes met his briefly, a silent acknowledgement of his role. The cub mirrored her gaze, small and attentive, learning not just survival skills but lessons in trust and discernment. Aaron realized that the forest was an ongoing classroom, not just for the cub but for himself. Each interaction had been a test, each choice a moral exercise, each step a lesson in responsibility, empathy, and courage. Aaron's relief was short-lived. From the misty undergrowth, he noticed subtle movement. Another human presence, this time a small group of hikers, unknowingly heading toward the bear family. The forest demanded one final moral test. Intervene once more, risking panic and exposure, or trust the animal's instincts to navigate the situation. The next decision would push Aaron's judgment and courage to the absolute limit. The forest had grown still, bathed in the warm light of late afternoon. Aaron's muscles ached from the morning's constant vigilance, but his mind was sharp, attuned to every subtle sound and movement around him. The mother bear and her cub had moved with deliberate care, teaching the cub lessons in trust, patience, and instinct. He watched them from a safe distance, aware that his role as protector and guide was reaching its natural conclusion, at least for this day. From a ridge above, the final group of hikers appeared, unaware of the bear family moving below. Aaron exhaled slowly, recognizing the potential for chaos. Yet he also realized that the cub and mother bear had learned enough to navigate cautiously, and his own interventions had established a rhythm of respect and vigilance. He could not control every human step, but he could prepare the animals, and the humans, for safe interaction. Aaron stepped forward, hands raised in calm authority. "Stop. Please stay here," he called, voice carrying over the trees. The hikers froze, surprised by the sudden appearance of the ranger. "There's a mother bear and cub moving through this area. Follow my instructions carefully, step back slowly, and no one gets hurt." The mother bear paused as well, sensing his voice but not perceiving direct threat. Her muscles remained taut, protective, but the low growl softened, signaling trust in Aaron's guidance. The cub, ears flicking nervously, pressed close against her side, learning once more the subtleties of caution and observation. Aaron motioned for the hikers to retreat carefully, leading them along a safer path. Each step was deliberate, ensuring their compliance while maintaining visibility of the mother and cub. The forest seemed to exhale with him, tension easing slightly as the humans moved away without incident. The mother bear resumed her cautious march, cub following closely. They navigated fallen logs, small streams, and uneven terrain with practiced care, illustrating the lessons Aaron had indirectly facilitated. The cub paused occasionally, glancing back at him, a small acknowledgement of the ranger who had guided humans and wildlife alike through complex moral and ethical challenges. Aaron reflected on the day's events: the creek, the stray dog, the hikers, the hunters, and the final group approaching. Each had tested his judgment, empathy, and courage. He realized that the forest was not merely a backdrop for survival, but a living classroom, constantly presenting moral and ethical dilemmas that required careful navigation. True responsibility, he understood, involved more than enforcing rules. It demanded empathy, presence, and courage in the face of uncertainty. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows through the dense trees, Aaron observed the mother bear and cub disappear into thicker undergrowth, their movements cautious but confident. The cub had learned subtle lessons in trust, patience, and observation, while the mother had reinforced the instinctual balance between protection and guidance. Aaron felt a profound sense of fulfillment. His interventions had preserved life, taught patience, and honored the delicate balance of the forest. Walking back along the trail, Aaron felt the weight of the day gradually lift. Each encounter had demanded decisiveness, ethical reasoning, and empathy. The forest had forced him to confront the complexity of moral responsibility, showing him that protecting life requires balancing human rules with the instincts and autonomy of the natural world. Aaron paused near a sunlit clearing, reflecting on the silent lessons of the day. He thought of the cub stumbling across the creek, the mother shielding it from danger, the hikers slowly retreating under his guidance. Each moment had reinforced the principle that true responsibility combines knowledge, courage, and empathy. He had acted decisively when intervention was necessary, yet respected the autonomy of the animals, teaching both humans and wildlife the rhythm of coexistence. A soft breeze rustled through the pines, carrying the scent of moss, water, and earth. Aaron smiled faintly, realizing that the forest trials had not only tested him but had also transformed him. He had learned that empathy and moral courage are as vital as skill and knowledge in preserving life. Every choice he had made had consequences, but by acting with respect, patience, and understanding, he had navigated a day filled with challenges without unnecessary harm. As he continued walking back toward the ranger station, Aaron glanced once more toward the dense forest where the mother bear and cub had disappeared. He understood that his role as guide and protector would continue whenever humans encroached on the wilderness, but for today balance had been restored. The forest, the animals, and humans had survived the day's trials intact, thanks to careful observation, ethical judgment, and decisive, empathetic action. Aaron felt a sense of quiet satisfaction. The forest had demanded more from him than enforcement of rules. It had required understanding, patience, and moral courage. The cub had learned the rhythms of caution and trust. The mother had reinforced instinct and protection, and humans had been guided safely away from potential conflict. It was a delicate, beautiful balance, one that required constant attention and respect, but one that was ultimately rewarding. Even as peace returned, Aaron knew the forest tests were ongoing. New humans, unexpected challenges, or sudden natural events could arise at any moment, demanding vigilance, empathy, and moral clarity. The day's lessons would echo in his decisions for years to come. How would you apply Aaron's lessons in empathy, judgment, and responsibility to real-life situations where human actions intersect with nature? Would you intervene, and if so, how?